to another episode of Perkins Pipes. A little bit snowy here in Indiana, but still it's a nice enough day, nice temperature. Actually, snow's starting to melt that we can actually be out on the deck for this episode. So I've got the Savinelli, Bing's favorite, certainly one of my favorites for this episode. And as I've mentioned before, when I think first introduced this pipe to you, Bing Crosby was one of my mom's favorites, and just loved Bing Crosby music. So I've got this pipe out because of her and because of what we're going to talk about. So you'll hear some children in the background. Obviously, it's a beautiful day, so kids are out in the neighborhood playing. So let's get this guy lit and let's start talking. So why am I bringing out the Bing in honor of my mom today? Well, we're going to spend a little time talking about the tools of serious readers in this episode. And I can't think about reading, and I can't think about the tools of reading without thinking about my mother. Certainly my dad read. He tended to read more nonfiction than fiction. My mom was the other way around. She tended to read more fiction than nonfiction. And certainly from my mom, I developed my love of reading, and really of all things having to do with words. I love everything about words. I love speaking them. I love singing them. I love writing them. I love reading them and listening to them, and I love the creation of them on paper. I love the physical process of writing, typing on a typewriter or a keyboard, even calligraphy as well. And I think that it really does stem back to my mother. And there's a lot of ways that you can read these days, and one of them, of course, is online. And I'm going to bring up a book here that I started off reading on my phone. I borrowed it from our library. And after a little bit of reading on my phone, I decided I had to purchase this one, and we'll talk about why. So here's the book. It's it's called Leisure, The Basis of Culture by Joseph Pieper, German philosopher from the 20th century. And you can see one of the things that you can do, obviously, nowadays on the phone or your tablet or whatever. You can certainly highlight, and you can certainly make notes. And as you can see here, I was making some notes. He referenced something from Aristotle. I wanted to know what that was in the Greek, so I looked it up. And I included it in a note right there in this online version, or this digital version of the book. But there came a point where that just wasn't enough. I could tell that I was enjoying this book enough that I wanted to purchase it in a physical copy. And there are certainly books I've read, fiction books that I've read on my phone, nonfiction books that I've read and annotated on my phone, and I didn't need to purchase them. But if it's a serious book, and it can be serious for fiction, and that doesn't necessarily mean heady, it could be fun, but serious in terms of I really enjoy it, then I want the real thing. Real in the sense of the Latin word res, which means thing. I want it to be thingified. I want it to be real. I want it to be actual pages and a book cover, and not just digital. So I ended up purchasing it from Amazon, and I'll give you just a little sample here. Here's a great example. So here are a couple of pages And you can see I'm highlighting. I've got Greek. I've got Latin notes at the bottom. And while you can certainly do that, obviously, just showed you that I did. You can certainly do that. It just doesn't make as much sense to me after a certain point. If I'm that heavily engaged in the book, I want the physical thing. And just as a quick side note, can't recommend this book highly enough. Leisure, the Basis of Culture. It also includes another of his lectures called The Philosophical Act. Worth every penny. It's not expensive, but worth every penny. Buy that on Amazon. For those of you who do enjoy the finer things, and pondering, reflecting, contemplating. And certainly if you do like that kind of thing, we invite you to subscribe to this channel. It's always nice to interact with people across the United States and around the world. Now, I'm not a snob when it comes to pens, although I do like to collect fountain pens. And that's going to be an episode for another day. We'll talk about my fountain pen collection and what I like about fountain pens and so forth. Historic fountain pens, new ones. But I want to talk about the tools of a serious reader. In fact, there used to be a company, maybe still around, called Levenger. And they had a catalog, and they sold all kinds of things. Pens and book lights to read in bed and so forth, all kinds of things. But their motto was tools for serious readers. This isn't about annotating for your English teacher in high school. This isn't about making margin notes to satisfy some professor. This is about how you choose to engage with something that you read. And for me, that requires a highlighter and a pen. Now, for me, I absolutely love the Sharpie liquid highlighter. All kinds of highlighters out there. I prefer yellow. The Sharpie liquid is a really bright yellow, vibrant. Tends not to soak through the page. Stays vibrant. I assume for years, certainly for the years I've been using them. Love these things. Get a pack of them on Amazon. I always have several on hand. Then when it comes to making notes, I like a finer point. I like a gel pen. For me, I like that better than the ballpoint. And you can't really get much better than the Pilot G2. I prefer it in the .05 size. And part of the reason is because I'm often making notes in Latin or Greek, or making page number references to other books or so forth. So I want something small that I can write with in the margin. Now, being a bit of a pen nerd, I do have a couple of others that I use really on a more regular basis now when I'm not using a fountain pen. I don't really use fountain pens to annotate books because most times book paper can't handle fountain pen ink. But it can handle gel. And I love this little Caran d'Ache. Caran d'Ache is a famous maker of fountain pens, and my son actually, who's up at Purdue University, he actually found one of these in a class of his, and I was up visiting him one time with my wife. And I saw it on his desk. I said, "Where in the world did you get that Caran d'Ache?" And he said that he found it. He didn't know what it was, and I told him, I said, "Well, that's a very expensive maker of fountain pens." I didn't realize that they had made ballpoints. So I went online, found that you can replace the cartridge that comes in it. It comes with a ballpoint, but you can replace it with a gel refill, and you can do a search on that. Different kinds of gel fills will fit different pens, and so I got a gel that would fit the Caran d'Ache. Then I've also got this gorgeous little purple metal Fisher space pen. And you've probably seen the Fisher space pen. Usually they're silver. A lot of times you find them in gift shops. If you ever go to like Cape Canaveral or the Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville, Alabama, the Fisher space pen was the pen that went up with the astronauts. And it had a compressed form of ink so that they were able to write upside down in space and the zero gravity and all that stuff. I got this a few years ago simply because I wanted something in purple and gold, which is the colors of the school where I teach now. Again, it comes with the patented Fisher ballpoint ink. I didn't want that, so again, I got a gel refill to put in that. So that's what I like to use when I'm reading. And I like to highlight passages that are important to me. I like to annotate. As I said, I like to annotate. Sometimes I'll put the original language if somebody's referencing something in Latin or Greek. Or I make notes to myself of, hey, that makes me think of something, or put a little exclamation mark in the side to let me know that that's a part that's really important to me and that I want to go back to. And the other thing I like to do is take pictures. I take pictures of the pages that I'm reading and send them out to friends. I'll tweet them out or post them on social media and say, hey, look at this, or this made me think of that. I did this just last night with something I was reading. I'm rereading the Dune series, the science fiction series Dune, and I'd read it 40 years ago, and I'm rereading the series now. And there's a passage in the third book, Children of Dune, that just struck me as relevant to our current political situation, and I highlighted it, or took a picture, highlighted it on the picture, sent it out to some friends, and said, hey, let's talk about it. And there's a reason I think that's important too. For me, reading is not just a solitary activity. I do it by myself, usually. Sometimes my wife's in the room and she's reading something as well. But I don't like to read just for me. I like to share the ideas with other people. I like to hear what other people are thinking about those books. So, here comes our question. How do you read? How do you read? Do you like to read on your phone, on a tablet, on a computer screen? Do you want to read only in physical print form? Are you a highlighter and an annotator? Are you someone who wants to keep your text absolutely pristine with no markings whatsoever? Do you share your reading with other people? Do you like to read in book groups? And then, what are you reading right now? I'd love to hear from you. So as Malcolm Guite likes to say, I do these little things in order at last to do nothing, or as I say in Latin, Parva ut tandem, nihil agam. Have a wonderful day.
There was a man who walked the earth.